Ooh, look at this elk trail. Ooh. Wow. That is some traffic. Well, maybe I'll take a few casts here. Oh, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, why not?
Alrighty. Here we go, another day. It's pouring rain. Pouring rain. Time to get caught up in some indoor stuff. I'm so close to getting my Blacktail Hunter book completed. That's pretty exciting for me. Now I go blank, right? Now I go blank. When I was going to have some things to say, there's going to be 3 parts to the ladies' videos, which are supposed to be on the membership option for a while. They'll eventually be public, I'd imagine. And that is feeding children. And the ladies are in on it, and they're stoked to be part of it, alright? Now, but take note for anybody who may want to snivel, I still put free content on here every single day. Okay? Now, that's exciting. We're probably going to do, Sarah's probably going to go out and do a shop today. Directly for some children that are hungry. Or in my frickin' backyard. It's funny, when you picture it, I think I already said this, but it's funny, you know, you always see UNICEF and all these people making commercials on TV since time began. And, always for another country. And it kind of takes your, attention away, and especially if you're not really directly linked up to everyone in your immediate community, things slip by, you know. And when I saw and she showed me just how many people right in my frickin' backyard don't have enough money for diapers and scrambling to get some food, and they've got 2 or 3 or whatever children, man, it's like, what the fuck's going on? Anyway, there you go. I don't have to explain myself any further than that, alright? Now, this is sent to me, screenshot from the comment section. And it says, maybe you will share this. My experience happened on December 26, 23, on our way through the mountains in Pennsylvania. It was nighttime, and it was deep, deep woods on both sides of us. Other than traffic, and in front of us, it was the middle of nowhere. There was an accident ahead, and traffic had slowed down to a crawl. This wasn't city traffic. We were traveling through the mountains to get back home to South Carolina. As we were stopped, my grandson was in the back seat on his Nintendo Switch, and my husband, who was driving, was just concentrating on the road. All of a sudden, 2 cars in front of us did both stopped in a weird formation as if to avoid something. And right then I saw what I thought was a very tall human figure, which seemed to be in all dark clothing, walking in front of those cars and right into the woods on our right. My mind is trying to make sense of this because there was nowhere but deep, dark, thick woods. It took me, sorry, there's a couple typos. It took me quite a few minutes to rationally put together what I saw. This supposed person was extremely tall. All one color. More rambling all than walking. And then it struck me that what I could only say was a creature and not a human. It happened so... Screenshots. Hold on a second. I'll find the next screenshot. It happened so fast that if I wasn't looking at that exact moment, I would have never seen it. My husband didn't see it, and I can't understand why. I'm still stunned about what I saw. And I now understand when people say it happens too fast to really document it, but that was obviously what the 2 cars in front of us were avoiding, and I'm sure they saw it. I wish they would see this post. Well, it's shared now. So, what are the chances are they're seeing this post? They're probably right up there. They're probably right up there, so we'll see if anything comes from that, right? Pennsylvania. And here's another screenshot with a... Okay, here's some other ones sent to me. Oh, these are all from underneath a Joe Rogan podcast video. I think he was talking to somebody about Sasquatch or something. Anyways, he's got sent in screenshots. This is from a person online called Lazy Prophet. I've not seen a Sasquatch, but I'm almost positive I was within 15 feet from one. Me and my cousin, about 14 at the time, spent one summer with my grandparents at their cabin in northern Arizona. One night we decided we were going to sleep in the tree fort that we had built over the years, so we did. We went out there after dinner around 8 p.m. to set up. We heard coyotes howling in the distance. Then we heard something howl that was definitely not a coyote. And even the coyotes shut up after hearing it. An hour or so later, we heard the sound of an owl not too far away, but it again creeped us out because it didn't really sound like an owl. It sounded like something trying to mimic an owl. We were on edge, but still thinking maybe it's just coyotes, and then an owl after all. I'd say about 15 to 20 minutes after the, quote, owl, we then heard a single loud footstep maybe 15 feet from our fort. It was just one step, but it was heavy and broke some branches. So we freaked out and ran back to the cabin with our flashlights and BB guns. As we fled the treehouse, we didn't see anything and didn't hear anything following us, so we got back to the cabin and went upstairs, where our room was. About 5 minutes later, something banged on the side door, the door we came in, really hard and loud 4 times. If it had been a person, they would have knocked on the front door, and knocked instead of banging really hard with the side of their hand. We ran downstairs, hoping my grandparents would have woken up, but they didn't. Then we weren't able to wake them either, as their routine was to start drinking at 6 p.m. every night and keep drinking until they passed out. LOL. Cringe. They were totally useless. There was a shotgun right next to the door, but we were too scared to grab it, especially since we'd... Sorry, I gotta go to the next page. Especially since we'd have to pass by the kitchen window, and I was ready to see something standing there staring at me. So we just went back upstairs and locked the door, and that was it. The weird thing is, we never talked about it again. I'm sure we must have told my grandparents the next day, but I have no recollection of it. Somehow I completely forgot about it, and didn't remember it until a few years ago, and I'm 40 now. And my cousin's passed away, so I can't talk to him to see what he remembers. Even though I've always believed they were real, at the time I wasn't thinking Sasquatch at all. I had no clue what to make of the experiences. These things are out there. I've heard too many credible encounters, and every Native American tribe has a name for them. The question... Sorry. The question is, what are they? And that's the end of that one. There you go. Another one. Sent in with screenshots, and I got no problem sharing those. I'll share everything. Almost. Right? Almost everything. Sad to hear about the grandparents. Here's another one. Screenshot. From Mark D6123 on the YouTube. Me and my brother were driving the Alcan in 1979. That's the Alaska Highway. It was about 1:30 a.m. in the mountains, heading around a turn. A snowy owl hit our windshield. We stopped to see if he died. We couldn't find him anywhere. So we're getting back in the truck, and we heard a big snap of a tree branch or something really close. We both looked towards the sound, and we seen 2 big, baseball-sized red eyes shining real bright, about 14 feet high. And then a big fog of breath exhaled from out of the bush near the glowing eyes. We flew into the truck, locked the doors, and peeled out of there. We believed it was a huge Bigfoot. It was strange because we had just heard on the radio station that a kid had shot at a Bigfoot in Trutch, Canada. That's exactly where we hit the owl. No shit. No way, that was on the... We just heard on the radio station that a kid had shot at one. Oh, 1979. That's back when they were probably more allowed to talk about those things publicly, right? Yeah, that was before the government gave all the media millions and millions of our dollars to do exactly what they say. Anyway, Trutch. Been through Trutch many, many, many times. It's funny how many people randomly stop on the side of the highway, rural highway, just that random throw of the dice, right? You stop to take a leak and there's this thing standing there. That's some shitty luck. Some might think it's good luck. I don't think so. I think it'd be shitty luck. Now I'm going through my inbox in my messages where I've got these screenshots. Here's another one. I don't know what this is about. This looks to be from the YouTube channel as well. 14 years ago, my son was very cynical about the existence of cryptids. One night, driving in Florida Panhandle, he saw a huge dog creature on the side of the highway. It stood up above his Jeep Wagoneer and ran in front of the car, crossing the highway in lightning time. It shook him up. He remembers it vividly, and afterwards he spent months scouring the internet to find other reported encounters. This night changed his life and awareness that these creatures exist. Initially, he had never heard of Dogman, so that didn't influence his experience in the moment. There's another one. Florida Panhandle. What is this? I don't know what this is, but I'm going to read it. It's a screenshot, so it must be important. I'm a retired denizen of the Silicon Valley. My work there took me to the sites of many businesses in the San Francisco Bay Area. Among these institutions was the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. Many projects are in process there, most financed by our government. What our club needs to know is that the backbone of the WWW goes through one of the buildings there. In that facility, every bit of data that goes across the internet is assessed. Packets are read by a computer. The data is searched for keywords. If some of these keywords are detected, the system produces a copy of that packet, and it is read by a human. I do not know what these keywords are. Perhaps some other member of the club will be familiar. The reason I'm writing is to warn folks that they wish to carefully consider how they express their thoughts. Keep up the good work. Goodness, I hope I didn't just make a blip on someone's radar. Well, nothing to be worried about unless you're organizing a substantial amount of human beings to kick some ass in some shape or form, I would imagine, right? I would imagine that's the only thing you'd have to worry about, and that's why, it's tough. We have somebody who we care about here is having some serious grief. And it's very hard for me to just reply an email because you just can't. I do believe that we are censored. Every single thing we do on these things, there's no frickin' way somebody doesn't have access to it in some shape or form. There's no way. We'll leave that at that. What's this? Here's another screenshot. I've been down what I want to say too many dark rabbit holes over the last 4 to 5 years to not understand what you were truly talking about. Trying not to say outright on some topics. I've had my own encounters with Sasquatch on my farm for years. And I've spent hours upon hours, usually all day, every day, searching and learning the truth of this world. And you sometimes need a strong stomach. I therefore understand your frustration in where do I start? I enjoyed your podcast with Nino the other day. Be safe, take care, and many thanks for what you're doing. All right. There we go. This is going to free up some space on my phone. And we skid through a few more of these. See if there's anything I haven't missed. There's another one. I've had a lot of close encounters on a piece of land I lived on for 10 years. Now my curiosity is super perked because my 2 golden retrievers and I got lymphoma at the same time. The first one died, then 8 months later the second one died while I was in ICU getting chemo for stage 4 mantle cell lymphoma. I did that for 8 months and was told I had 6 months left. I sold my land and moved deeper into the mountains onto bare land in a camper to enjoy what I had left instead of more treatment. I started eating apricot seeds and building a cabin. It sure prolonged my life. Now I'm sitting by my fire in my cabin 5 years later listening to this. I have them here too, though, and I've wondered if the same one comes around. I'm 30 miles away. I also wanted to say that the wood knocks are actually some type of cluck. Best as I can explain them. They have a harshness or a thump to them, and I don't think hitting the soft pines around me does... and I don't think hitting the soft pines around me does... I don't think hitting the soft pines around me does not provide. I've heard it a few times recently from different spots around me. Is in the middle of the night from 3 spots, and it sounds very intense when they are close. There you go. Apricot seeds and cancer. I've been hearing a lot about that one. A lot of people have emailed me in about that one to pass on to friends, which I have. There's another screenshot. Oh, hold on a minute. Let me get rid of that one. So it's red. Done. All right. Here's another one. I was in Montana in September. Our cabin was about 500 yards upslope from a small high-altitude lake. It was open around the lake except the north side. Trees and growth up to the edge of the lake. I was up one night around 1 a.m. sitting on the porch. No wind and peaceful quiet. After sitting there, about 15 minutes, I heard a loud splash in the lake. But 2 minutes later, same thing again. It was a bright night and I could see well. I could see the ripples on the water. I heard this 4 or 5 more times. After the third one, I focused in on the shoreline where it met the trees. That's when I saw a basketball-sized rock fly out of the trees. I saw the next 3 as well fly out of the trees. There you go. That sounds familiar. I might have read that already. I don't think I shared it, though. And here's another one. These are all screenshots from the comments section, alright? My husband, son, and a friend were duck hunting 2 weeks ago. It was pouring rain, over 10 inches that day. They came home and told me they heard knocking on trees and heard an animal sound they had not heard before. My son laughed and said, "Mom, you called them in by watching your Bigfoot guy." I do not make calls or anything like that, but I do believe and know. A big one and a little one crossed the road a couple of times from here last summer. The lady and grandkids were freaked out. She made a Facebook post, and there were hundreds of people who had something to say. There you go. There's another one. Unfortunately, I guess a lot of these screenshots and comments are taken from specific videos with areas mentioned in the videos, maybe. But that's okay. Okay, here's another one. Here's another screenshot. Sent. I put all these in a folder, alright? I'm telling you, Steve, the best technique known to man that trains a person to harness their gut instinct is called Sahaja Yoga. Sahaja Yoga. It fully explains our internal workings of how Holy Spirit moves through our bodies. I believe these abilities are already built into us all. We just have to feel them and tap into them. But Sahaja, or you know how I am about making some pronunciations, right? But Sahaja Yoga is like taking you into the Mariana Trench with a submarine versus a wading in the kiddie pool with floaties. I'm a believer in reincarnation, and I feel that I was a Sahaja yogi in the past life, and these skills followed me into my next life. This is how powerful and pure I believe Sahaja Yoga to be. There are dark forces at work on this planet, some of which might blow people's minds if they heard what might actually be going on. Soul trapping, manipulation of reincarnation, time travel, etc. The time of exposure is upon us. There you go, another rabbit hole for many, including myself, and I am very interested in that topic. Not meaning yoga, maybe I should be, but if there's anything I have convinced myself of by my diggings, it is the fact that Once we hit that public school system, we are obviously not taught about our inner instincts, right? We're not. If anything, I believe they're rubbed out of us. And why would our internal instincts be rubbed out of us? So that we would not detect bullshit. That's about the easiest, most simplest way I can put it. It is so that we will not. No, maybe it'll be so that we become naturally complacent to bullshit that is fed to us. I strongly believe if I had to make a bet right now, I'd bet the farm. Right? Why else? Give me your top 3 reasons why you believe our inner instincts would intentionally be suppressed from the time we hit that school system. Whether that's true or not, if that is what's going on the moment we enter that system, let's just play along. Let's just pretend. Pretend that's what's going on. What's your top 3 reasons why, if we were born with our natural instincts, which should be honed as we go and enhanced as we go and pointed out to us as children as we go, why are they potentially doing the opposite with our children, with us at a young age? Let's come up with some reasons for that, right? The number one most easily understood delivery I can give is so that we become complacent and go along with being fed bullshit, right? It goes a long way for the people who need us to comply. Right? Anyway. Babbling. What else do we got? Any more screenshots? All right, here's another one. Hey everyone, just want to share my story of what happened to me and my friend while driving a couple of weeks ago. Would love input and feedback. My friend and I were on a trip to fish from Vancouver to Cranbrook. We drove straight there and arrived around 6 a.m. in the morning. During that drive at around 4 a.m., we were passing Moyi Lake Stretch. That's M-O-Y-I-E Lake Stretch. If you don't know that stretch, it's sheer mountain and a little highway with an abutment on the side that goes to the lake. It was pitch black with very minimal cars and very remote. While we were driving with my high beams on, we noticed a large figure. As we got closer, we both were mind blown. Easily a 7-foot tall man, very hairy, with pale palms, standing tall, walking in front of us across the highway. Both of us were completely shook, staring at this figure. It didn't even look at us. Just kept walking while my high beams were on it. We proceeded on and both looked at each other, completely in shock. Gave both of us shivers down to our spine. We both came to realization that it was indeed Bigfoot and made us both firm believers in it. Is anyone from that area that has witnessed anything like that? Is anyone from that area, probably meant here, that has witnessed anything like that? I could also give perfect coordinates to where it was if anyone would be investigating the mountainside. There you go. Another screenshot. Question posted. This is last summer. These. All right. There you go. Moyi Lake, BC. Anybody? Chime in. Chime in. Either in the comment section below or email me. Here's another screenshot. I flashed an LED torch at a UFO one time, and it was terrifying when it came down to us. I worked in the patch in southeast Saskatchewan for years. I know what res you're from. Moose Mountain Provincial Park is a bunch of large hills with a 40 by 40 kilometer forest in the middle of the bald-ass prairies, complete with wolves and black bears. I asked an elder from White Bear if they have Sasquatches there. When he realized I was serious, his demeanor changed to very serious and somber. He said, quote, "Something much worse, a giant man with the legs of an elk. I know several men who have lived on the outskirts of that forest on either side, east and west, and just north of Arcola. I used to park my trailer on one of their farms. The forest is creepy as F. At night, for real. You couldn't pay me to stay there in a tent unarmed. Nope. There you go. It's another screenshot below a video about a reserve in Saskatchewan with some crazy stuff going on. All right, back to the emails. Excuse me. This is titled Hairy Bastard Visit. Hi, Steve. This is my second share. Rifle season 2023, Virginia National Forest land. I started getting back into hunting. I didn't stop due to odd critters. I just let it go for a while. I spent the week before Thanksgiving primitive camping on site. It was friggin' cold, 30-mile wind first few days. A friend from work and a friend of his joined me a couple days into it. Bad news first, I guess. I lost my first deer. Low and wide 8-point, chasing 6 doe. I shot him twice with my 300 blackout. The first shot, he turned and charged in my direction for about 10 yards until he saw me. He then turned broadside and took another round for his troubles. He went about 50 yards across the crest of a rise where I saw a small tree getting shook as if he went down against it and was thrashing a bit. At the same time, my friend yelled from the road below me asking if I needed any help with him. I said I was good. I went over to collect my kill, but when I got to the tree, he was not there. I went to where I shot him. There was blood and a chunk of heart, maybe liver. I lost the trail near the tree that was shaking. I had nightmares about that buck that night. During the following days, I was pestered by owl and cow calls. I never saw any owls or cows. This location is straight up and down on both sides. A gully of sorts, easily a mile from any cows, and a mountain in between to boot. And one night I headed to my tent from our fire pit. I heard small bipedal footsteps walk right up to my tent after I got in. I opened the flap, got out, used my light to check in a 360, and nothing was there. My friend told me about a deer that he had lost a couple years prior. He shot it good. He was trailing the blood when a large black bear came crashing past him from where he figured the deer was. He got to where the deer had gone down. No deer, no more trail. 1 month ago, I had a dream. In my dream, I was awakened by a big, hairy bastard peeking from behind the deck. It surely was making noise or something to have woken me up, but my recall of dreams is for shit. We had a foot of snow on the ground, so I'd been parking up the hill. The next day on my way to the truck, I saw a big old Sasquatch print at the end of the driveway. Steve, these buggers are or can be anywhere, anytime, and mind speak is real. The hitchhiker effect is real, and apparently dream intrusion is real. You know all this, though. Just news for anyone who wants it. Also, there are mountain lions in Front Royal, Virginia. My son saw one on Skyline Drive. Thanks for what you do, and thanks to everyone that shares info. Dave Perron. Dave, I hope I didn't butcher your last name, buddy. Pierron. A lot of people lose the game, and that's something could potentially be one of my worst nightmares. I don't want that to happen to me. There's not much you can do about it. On the bear thing, running right by you, reminds me when I'm going to share this a while back, when I was bow hunting one of my favorite spots in the coastal mountains of BC. It was raining, it wasn't windy, and it was like midday. You know, it's just I'd already been hunting since I'd been in the woods for about an hour before daylight. Straight up. And then I did my hunt, went to the backside of the hill, and I was sitting on this mossy rock that had a great view. And probably the mossy rock is no bigger than this floor space. So to give you an idea of how tight the bush was around me. Thick willow, whatever the leafed thick bush is, and all of a sudden, coming from straight behind me, thank God I didn't sit down on the trail that I took to get on that rock. I moved off to the left. I was just sitting there, and what really bothered me more was I didn't hear it coming. And all of a sudden, this frickin' black bear blows out of the bushes, literally right beside me and burns across that, launches himself across the open moss rock, and disappears into the bush below me and keeps on going like a lightning bolt. So when you're sitting there very relaxed, just gazing off into the gazing at the view and the rain making noise around you, obviously, and something big and black blows through you right beside your face and shoulder. God, that gave me a heart attack. And I was actually, it jolted me, but I was actually more concerned about what might be coming next. But nothing came, thankfully. That triggered that memory, reading that email. All right, here's another one. This is titled Utah Elk Hunt. Another elk hunter. Hello, brother. I will stay anonymous because my wife works for the government, and they are backstabbing, lying thieves. Yes, they are. In 2011, I drew a coveted limited entry elk tag in southeast Utah. My family had a cabin and a small parcel of land next to state forest on BLM land. I had a good friend and his son, as well as my father, came and camped while I hunted. My friend was partially disabled, and my 75-year-old dad needed knee surgery, so they stayed at the cabin and visited, cooked, etc. And his 18-year-old son hunted with me. My tag was good for 5 days, but after day 4, my friend and his son had to leave. Only 5 days. On day 5, I hiked in the dark to a high meadow where we had seen elk every morning. I started feeling pressure on the way up the mountain, but did not understand why. I'd seen lion tracks all week, but that's par for the area. I was not scared of lions, and I was well armed. When I got to the meadow, just as light was breaking, I saw 3 bulls at the far side of the meadow, up a steep slope from me. Where they were standing was all open except for some scattered spruce trees next to slide rock that went all the way up to a peak to the west. The elk did not know I was there, but they were on full alert and fixing to leave. I put my pack on a log and settled in to take a shot. Through my scope to the right of the elk, which would have been north, I saw a large, grayish, silver, 9-foot-tall being duck around a spruce tree. My mind couldn't process what it was. I settled my crosshairs on the largest elk and fired. He dropped and rolled down the slope toward me. After I knew the elk was down, I quickly went over to where I saw the silver being and saw nothing. No animals, except for 2 bulls with the one I shot. Sorry, let me read that sentence again. After I knew the elk was down, I quickly went to where I saw the silver being and saw nothing. No animals, except for 2 bulls with one I shot. Moved. I was perplexed. I went back to camp to get my meat pack, and my dad said he wanted to go up with me, even though with his bum knee he was less than capable. We hiked to the elk, and I had this overbearing fear of something was fixing to charge us. I had my .45 auto in my hand at all times, except when I was quartering the bull, but always had it within reach. We were pretty in the wide open, so I wasn't worried about a bear or lion approaching us undetected. I put a backstrap on my dad's pack and sent him on his way. I made 4 trips to get my meat out, and as the day went on, the fear of being charged got milder, but never went away. I went home and never thought much of it because I didn't know about silver gray Sasquatches or the pressure until I found your channel. Now I realize what went down. Pressure, elk on full alert, 9-foot-tall silver being. Pressure when packing my elk out. There's a lot more to the story, but this is enough info for the club. Thanks for enlightening me. All right, man. Thanks for sending that email. If there's a little more on there that you think might help us, you can maybe share it. Or not, that's fine, but we got it. And I'm glad it helped you out. I wonder why it let you take all the meat. You know, that's one thing. I hunt by myself a lot. And usually when I shoot an elk, it's back in the middle of frickin' I go deep, deep into the jungle after the elk that I get. It's just where the area that I have chosen to hunt the past few years has a lot of guys there. And the only way I can get my elk is by going head first deep into the frickin' jungle. And that's where I shoot them. And obviously when you're by yourself, you have to leave that kill site in that thick jungle to pack your meat out and go back in for more. Right? And it's always a concern on my mind, especially around there. There's more for grizzly bears, but in the back of my mind, sometimes you just find yourself hoping. You hope it's still there. You know, when you get back up for the next load, you hope the carcass is still there and all your meat's still there. It's a lot of money and a lot of time that you throw down to hunt these days. And you really want that healthy food for home. And the pressure, I guess you interpreted it as pressure that you're going to get charged. I guess everybody's going to describe it differently, but I would imagine it's just the pressure being watched, right? It's the pressure of feeling watched. Pretty alarming. Surprised you didn't take off with your elk, because it's happened a lot. Who's next? Here's another one. Hello, Steve. I watch your YouTube videos rather than the news. Good for you. Not meaning my channel, but I'm meaning shutting off the mainstream news. My incident happened in Sedona, Arizona. We were visiting my in-laws who lived out of town amongst the red rocks in a house away from any neighbors. It was late at night. I was the only person awake in the house. The high windows in our room were fully open, and a light breeze was blowing the drapes as I watched a movie. Excuse me, my bed was up against the wall under the open window, and all of a sudden, I smelled a rank odor. It was a skunky, feces, filthy smell that was making my eyes water. I heard the window screen creak, and then a low guttural noise. By turning off the TV, the entire room was fully darkened. My first thought was a bear, or a cougar, or a deer was out the window, but the smell didn't seem to match those animals. Whatever it was, it had begun sniffing at the screen. I was terrified. I was afraid to look out that window. I snuck out to the living room and turned on a bank of floodlights in the rear of the property. Upon the return to my room, the smell was gone. I closed the window and went to sleep. The next morning, I went outside to look at the yard just outside our window. The dust on the screen had been displaced, and it seemed to be in the shape of a large hand. There were no other disturbances. Could my nocturnal visitor be an indigenous animal? I have lived on Kodiak Island and have spent time in Afognak as well. I've smelled bear and cervidae. None stank like this. That night, I thought a cougar was out the window. Now I think maybe not. Regards, Roxanne Andrew. Roxanne, appreciate your email. Afognak. Afognak. I've been on that island too, actually. I went there on a hunt, and it was an adventure right out of frickin' National Geographic to me at the time. And we flew into that small native village, landed, and all these kids come running out and riding their bikes out to see who's getting off the plane. It's pretty cool. Met a couple of very interesting native guys there, and actually went to their homes and hung out and swapped some bullshit stories with them. It was a really good time. And then we took a boat from there out around the corner and deep into one of those inlets. And then we came to where the ocean was frozen, and we had to hike miles across that ice to get to camp. It was quite the adventure. But anyway, back to you and your experience. Appreciate you sending that in. Sedona, Arizona, you guys, all right? Sedona, Arizona. Another one. I wonder how many people from there are watching. Excuse me. Okay, here's another one. Mark this as red. This is, hi Steve, please don't use my name, which is, I'm a resident of Maine. Did you hear that? That was my stomach. Holy shit. Father of 5. And of course, a husband, the love of my life. All right, here we go. My story takes place in Wilson Mills, Maine. My wife and I decided to take a weekend by ourselves by bushwhack camping. We did not use a tent. Instead, we used our hammocks, which in my opinion is much more comfortable than tenting it. You know what? Hammocks just make me cringe. The thought of me using a hammock in British Columbia makes me cringe. I just picture getting clotheslining a bull moose, or worse. I'm not familiar with hammocks, but it seems like it wouldn't be that easy to get in and out of those things. But anyway, we did not have a specific destination. All we did was drive a dirt road until we found what looked like a good place to park. There was a stream that paralleled the dirt road. Once we parked and put our packs on, we walked a very short distance of maybe 70, 80 yards, crossed the stream, and found the perfect camping spot as soon as we crossed. This is how we had our hammock set up. Both head ends were attached to a spruce tree that was growing up against an old yellow birch tree, and our feet were tied off to two separate trees, so basically our hammocks were placed in the shape of a V. Our rain flies were then placed over the hammocks. Excuse me. The mosquitoes were quite bad, so thankfully we both had bug nets over our hammocks. The brook was no more than 15 feet from us. The first day we pretty much hung out at the campsite and explored the woods around us. Once night had hit, we both climbed into our hammocks and fell asleep. I was awakened in the middle of the night by a deer that ventured really close to us, and then realized that something foreign to the area was there, and they blew. This jumped the ever-loving shit out of me because the deer was merely a few feet from us when it did this. Shortly after this, my wife woke me up and wanted to climb into my hammock with me. I have no idea why, other than she just felt uncomfortable. The rest of the night went without incident. I have to mention I am a U.S. Marine veteran, and I've grown up to love hunting, fishing, and trapping. I currently own a nuisance wildlife business, so I'm very familiar with all the species of wildlife we have here in Maine. No doubt, trappers don't miss anything. Ever. I'm going to just fast forward to the second night. My wife had already decided she was going to sleep with me once we decided to hit the sack. That night it was pouring rain, and you could not see anything whatsoever. There was no ambient light from the stars or moon. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face. I'm going to guess, and say around 11 p.m. to midnight, something ran into me, or very abrasively brushed up against me. It rocked us so hard that we started swinging in the hammock. Whatever it was, the moisture that was on its body almost soaked the whole left upper side of my body. Ooh. The rain flies were approximately 5 feet off the ground, and whatever it was pushed them up and made a stick that we had propping up the rain flies fall down. Whatever it was made absolutely no sound. We were awakened immediately, of course. My heart felt like it was going to burst out of my chest. My wife whispered rather loudly, "What the F was that?" The direction this thing moved was from my head to her feet. I didn't hear across the stream, nor any sticks or branches snapping that would say it took off. I told my wife not to say a word and be as quiet as she possibly could be. I did have my Glock 45 underneath my hammock, but closer towards my wife's side. I told her to reach slowly and quietly for the firearm that was just underneath her. Whatever it was obviously still there, but we just couldn't see it. It took a few minutes before she was able to get her hands on the pistol, and of course, being a Glock, it doesn't have a safety, so I didn't dare to leave her round chambered. Instead, I just kept my hand on the slide so I could rack around quickly if need be. Minutes felt like hours, and hours felt like an eternity. All this time, we could hear something pacing back and forth behind us. It wasn't loud, but you could definitely tell something was there. I would say around an hour and a half passed. I finally got the guts to try and look over the edge of the hammock to see if I could see something. Hour and a half. And all of a sudden, at ground level, and about 10 feet in front of us towards our feet, there was a small white light that appeared. It didn't project a beam of any sort. It was like you turned your watch light on. However, it was brighter. This light moved from left to right about 3 feet and then disappeared. All I could think of to say was, what the F was that? Immediately after the light went out from the exact spot, there was a very loud bat squeak. I tried to ease my wife as much as possible, but as possibly I could, but I was having a hard time not freaking out. I couldn't wrap my head around what this possibly could be. There wasn't anything possible on Earth that could have made that light and then that sound. I just couldn't wrap my head around all this. To top it off, we could still hear something walking around behind us. At one point, we heard a loud tree knock and a whoop sound further in the distance, probably around 0300 in the morning, in the same location as the other light, but around 5 to 6 feet in the air. Another light showed up, and this one also moved about 3 feet left to right, then disappeared. There was no noise that followed this one, though. Shortly after that, we heard something trying to get into my truck. You could hear the handle being pulled and let go. While all this is going down, all I could think of was a show called 411, which talks about people mysteriously become missing while out in the woods. I shit you not, Steve. I have never been so scared in my life. Well, I would say about 1 hour before sunrise, within 4 feet, and off to the left of my head, something made a noise I have never heard in my life. The only way to describe this was if you were to watch a horror movie with monsters or aliens in it, and the monster is lurking in the dark, and it makes some sort of purring sound. No human could ever duplicate this sound with their own voice. After it made this voice, you could hear something quite small but bipedal run off further into the woods. Finally, daylight came, and my wife and I packed up and got the hell out of there. I'm telling you this story from my phone, and I probably could be more detailed with that night's events, but I just wanted to get this story out. Anyone that we've tried to tell this to reacts to us as though we were making it up. And I swear on my life, this is all true. I couldn't make this shit up. I've searched and searched for some sort of explanation, and I've come up empty-handed. I'm very curious to know if anyone else may have experienced something similar. This really made me think twice when I go to and from my deer blind in the dark. I greatly appreciate you sharing people's stories. They all need to be heard. Someday we'll have the answers. Thanks again, Steve, and stay safe out there. Ugh. That's a creepy-ass experience and scenario. No, thank you. Ugh. Blights, right? It's like last summer. Last summer, beside a lake, the lake that feeds one of my favorite steelhead rivers, what I take you guys to, and where I used to sit on that log in the big timber. That photo that I use as a thumbnail sometimes, my green puffy jacket, I'm standing in those big trees in that timber patch. And that timber patch is one time where I sat on the logs across the old deactivated logging road to sit and share a bunch of your emails. And I couldn't sit there anymore. I was after steelhead fishing. I'm like, oh my God, I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here. I don't know if you remember that. That was about a year ago and a bit. But anyways, last summer was my first time. Well, we've seen some bright lights across the valley from our back deck late at night in the timber. But other than that, this one time recent where I saw that small bright light was in broad frickin' daylight, and I went down to the edge of that lake, and I bought some food in town, and I stopped to have my lunch on the way out to go guiding for salmon halibut. And I drove down that short road to that lake, and that was about 2 kilometers before I get to that patch of timber where I got freaked out that time. And as I'm backing down, did I back down? Yeah, back down right to the edge of the lake. And I'm backing down, looking out the window, and I glanced over the timber as I go backwards, and I saw that bright, small light, bright about, I don't know, 30 feet from me on the bank. of timbers and ferns and everything. Went up to the edge of the logging road. I just glanced at it, and obviously you're gonna, that's probably just a reflection of a beer bottle or something, right? Didn't think too much of it, and then I backed down the lake. But I still was thinking about that light. I'm like, wait a minute, how is it even having a reflection? Because it's in the timber. There's no sun in the timber. And I bought one of those stupid sushi trays in the grocery store. The semi-nasty but edible. Just grabbed it quick. And I was eating with my fingers. And then I looked across the lake to the left, and I swore I saw a branch go back up. Like that. A big overhanging cedar tree. And I walked onto that, and it was about 200 yards away. And then directly to my left, that's when I heard that big branch. It sounded like, if I had to guess, it would have been a branch at least like this. Crack! And there wasn't. It was sunny afternoon. No wind, no rain, no nothing. And that branch broke under pressure. It wasn't a slow, rotten... It was a... Crack, pow, And I just looked straight down. Threw my shit in the box of the truck. Looked down, walked around the box of the truck. To my driver's door, got in. I'm like, I don't need this shit. I'm not into this shit. See ya. And I left. Anyway, you seeing those lights, that's what triggered me to share that experience again on here. That's the one time I saw a small bright light in the forest. Wasn't moving. I don't think it was moving. I think it was stationary, what I saw, but I didn't really stare at it. I just thought, I took note of it though. I saw that light as I was backing up and looking in my mirror and looking behind me, because I'm backing up to the lake edge, right? The bright lights. What are they? Are you guys? What's up with that? Now, another one. Where are we here? All right, this is a follow-up. 2 parts. Hi, Steve. I forgot to say in my last email that it was 1974 and I was 14 years old. Thanks again. I watch when I can. I like what you're doing. Thanks, Wes. And then here's the original email. Hi, Steve. This is Wes. I need to rewrite this story. I did a poor job last time. I'll get it right now. We were in the Okanagan National Forest, 100 miles from anyone. We're hunting for deer and a good area to hunt later. So anyway, we are in the middle of nowhere. My aunt stops the car. We get out and go down the hill towards a creek. The grass and bushes were about 10 to 15 feet high. So we are walking around, and we hear a very large growl from deep in the bushes. So we thought it was a bear. Decided to head out of there. It was late afternoon, so we head to where we were going to camp out for the night. So we head up the mountain. When we got there, it was getting dark, so we made a fire. We put our sleeping bags on the ground. Just about then, we hear a screaming from the valley below. I thought it was an elk. He said to me there are no elk in this forest. Then I was confused to what that screaming was. The sounds to be getting closer. I said to my cousin. He said he thought maybe a grizzly. Then the screaming kept getting closer. We were 3,000 feet from the valley below, and it took a half an hour to get to us. Screaming all the way. It sounded like a D6 cat coming up from the valley below. We had two 30-06s with 2 boxes of shells. One was an automatic. One was a bolt action with a clip. Anyways, it was to me unreal. It was ripping out trees and smashing them into other trees. It was so loud. We looked at each other. It was too close to run at that point. The fire was 10 feet high, so we could see it. We unloaded everything we had in the rifles. We stopped and just listened, looking at each other, and nothing. We sat up all night and just listened. Hours were like minutes. Then the sun came up. My aunt was yelling, "Fire!" No, it was just the sun coming up. Oh, she meant forest fire. Not fire the gums. No, it was just the sun coming up. We were too scared to go look. To this day, we don't talk about it. I tried to get him to go back, and he said no. Because where there's one, there's more. I won't go back to see. The government knows. If I would have known, it could have been different. Maybe this next year when the snow clears, excuse me. This is my truth, so help me God. No name. That sounds frickin' alarming. Sounds like he was a little alarmed writing it, don't you think? All right, well, I wonder if you went back there. I wonder if there's a few more details. I wonder if you're still here following the channel. Now, that sounds a little familiar, this email. I don't know. Did you see something? Like, did you guys actually see what you were shooting at or just shoot towards the sound? And I totally get it. A lot of people are going to go, you don't shoot your firearms and you can't see what you're shooting at. Well, we weren't there. And I have a feeling if we were there, or you or I were there, it would have been absolutely intimidating, terrifying, life-threatening. And believe me, everybody reacts differently when it comes down to shit going down in the woods. I've seen the biggest, most A-type kick-ass dudes literally start physically crying when it came to a grizzly bear encounter. I've seen it all. I've seen guys throw the gun and run that you didn't think would. I'm just saying that as an example of people react differently when the shit flies in the middle of nowhere and there's no 911, there's no police officer, there's no bodyguards, it's just you. That's it. You. Your mommy's not going to be there to help you out. It's up to you to deal. A lot of people can't deal, right? So, I'm just saying, don't be the judge, all right? Don't judge these people. You weren't there. You don't know what they experienced. But that sounds like something absolutely mind-bending, terrifying coming up the mountain. So, there you go. Obviously thought their end was coming. Anyway, if you're still here following the channel, maybe you want to email us back, maybe if you feel like it. Or not, that's fine. And let us know if you actually saw the being and saw or heard the rounds hitting it and how it reacted. There you go. I'm going to get moving. Got stuff to do. And there's going to be another part 3 of the ladies tomorrow. Is going to be loaded up, and as well, regular videos loaded up the same time. All right, you guys? We're going to go we're going to go do some shopping for some kids this afternoon. I'll be back tomorrow. Share my story at howtohunt.com. That's where you get all this shared word for word. All right?